13, calendar number 153, substitute for Senate Bill number 954, an act requiring the reporting of incidents that resulted in serious physical injuries or death at institutions of higher learning.
And good afternoon, Senator Slapp.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good to see you. I do believe that the clerk is in possession of an amendment, LCO number 7463, and I would ask the clerk to call the amendment, and I'd be given leave to summarize, please.
Mr. Clerk. Senator, would you like to please repeat the LCO number?
Sure. It is LCO number 7463 with a number of co-sponsors, including Senator Whitco, Senator Haskell, Senator Minor, Senator Kissel, Representative Elliott, and myself.
LCO number 7643, Senate Schedule A.
Senator Slapp.
Right. Thank you. I'll briefly summarize the amendment. It really does three things. It ensures that accidents, as opposed to incidents, are being what's reported by universities and college institutions of higher education in Connecticut. It ensures that the data from accidents resulting in death and accidents resulting in serious injury are not aggregated, so there's essentially a line for each of those. And it includes dormitories and campuses overseas that are controlled or operated by Connecticut colleges, universities, and institutions of higher ed. So I do move passage of the amendment and would ask for a voice vote.
Thank you. So the question is on passage or adoption of the amendment that is before the chamber. Will you remark further on the amendment? Senator Whitco.
Thank you, Madam President. And I thank Senator Slapp, the distinguished chair of the Higher Education Committee, for offering to be on a joint amendment with many of his colleagues, both in the House and the Senate. I urge passage of the amendment, and I'll speak later on once it becomes a bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Whitco. Will you remark further on the amendment that is before the chamber? If not, let me try your minds. All in favor of the amendment before the chamber, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the amendment is adopted. Will you remark further on the bill as amended? Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Madam President. About 3 years ago, a freshman in college in Colorado, who was from Connecticut, tragically died in an accident. And his family, ever since, has been working on this legislation and been spending an incredible amount of energy, and I would say displaying an incredible amount of strength to get us to this moment, this day, in this chamber, to see this bill passed and to go down to the House. I came in as chair of the Higher Education Committee in midstream and had picked this bill up and was not familiar with it. And I'm very grateful for my colleagues, Senator Haskell and Senator Whitco, I would say Senator Wong, Senator Minor, Senator Kissel, who all have contributed to this bipartisan bill that we have before us today. It truly is an example of the product being better when we work together. And I have learned through my conversations with the Houseman family that accidents are the leading cause of death on college campuses, not only in Connecticut, but across the country. And oftentimes they're not reported. It would seem, I think, to most people, most families, that this would be an oversight. And we know that crime statistics are reported. But when it comes to accidents that cause serious injury or death, they're not reported. So what this bill does is it requires that universities and institutions of higher education report those accidents. And because of the good work of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as amended, this bill also applies to dormitories and campuses overseas that are owned or operated by a Connecticut college or university. So I think this bill closes a loophole, but more importantly, when this is passed and signed into law, this will save lives. And UConn's police chief said as much in her testimony when she said it will help, in this case UConn, prioritize, first I should say identify, prioritize, and address threats to public safety when it comes to, in some cases it could be a sidewalk or a walkway or other hazards or things that are on a college campus that are a threat to public safety. And this bill, would certainly include other information as well. But when I saw and read the testimony, and I realized that this bill has the potential to save lives, it showed me how important it is that we get this done and get it done as soon as possible. The last thing I just want to say, and I know some of my colleagues are going to speak on this as well, is that I really stand in awe of the strength of the families who came to testify on this bill. There are many families, not just the Houseman families, who have been touched by tragedy and have sent their child off to school with all the promise that means, and we all think I have a junior in high school right now, and I can imagine what that's going to be like, and you send them off to college and think about the incredible bright future, and then tragically something happens. And, in the Houseman case, they could have been devastated, and of course they are. But they could have, and it would have been understandable for them to leave it at that, and to, in the years that followed this tragedy, to grieve and to not necessarily think almost immediately as they have, how can I somehow use this tragedy to help other people? And they, remarkable in what they did. They followed up with this university in Colorado and offered to actually, from my understanding, use their own money to help make a safety improvement. And to this day, my understanding is that safety improvement still has not happened at that university. But they have just been relentless in their pursuit of making an improvement. And sadly, tragically, it's too late for Corey, but it's not too late for our children. And this is what that bill does. It's very simple, but again, it is going to shine light on accidents that result in serious injury or death. It's going to give the public and parents critical information, and then it's going to help the Institute of Higher Education have that information, evidence-driven data, to make changes and make campuses safer. So I do urge my colleagues to stand with me and pass this bill for all those families who have experienced a tragedy and to prevent others from also experiencing. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Slapp. Will you remark further? Senator Whitcoast.
Thank you, Madam President. Imagine you have a 17, 18, or 19-year-old graduating from high school, and they're about to begin their college tours of the places that they like to go to. So you as a parent or a guardian, you go with them, and you tend to look at all the different aspects of the school. What kind of a quality education will they receive? How much does it cost? Where is it located? What is the community that it's involved in? You have the ability to look and see what kind of crimes have been reported on campus. But the unknown here, which is kind of what brought us here today, is you didn't know what happened on campuses that wasn't a crime, that caused the death of a student, that caused a serious physical injury to a student. And I thank Senator Haskell, who was the former chair of higher education, for bringing this bill forward and to hear the parents and the friends and the relatives of those children that died on a college campus, whether it was on a public road or in a dormitory or any facility that was controlled by the college, that maybe as a parent, as you were taking your child on a tour, you might, if you had that information, you may want to have steered your child to a different school. Because in some cases, I think we heard during testimony, 5 students had died in the previous 3 years. And as a parent, you didn't know that because it wasn't a crime. It was never reported. So this is going to give not only the parents, but the student themselves who are putting themselves there, most oftentimes the first time away from mom and dad, to live on their own, to be that grown-up teenager, if you will, as they're entering into their early 20s, to finally get out of the house and live life without the restrictions of mom and dad, but being fully aware of the environment that they're getting into themselves. And as Senator Slapp had so eloquently said, I applaud the advocacy of these families that had to deal with such tragedy that they turned it around and are up here. And in the case of this particular session, higher ed, the public hearing went on for hours and hours and hours. But they stayed there and they told their story and they answered questions. And my God, I don't even know how they did it in some cases without, just breaking down. But they did. Because, in part, they're doing it so often because they want something to come out of a tragedy. They're telling this story over and over and over again to affect change. And I think that as we discuss this bill in our caucus, and I'm sure on the other side of the aisle discuss it in their caucuses, how can we take these ideas that have been bantered around and make this the best bill that we can? And I think that's the product that is now before this chamber, is a combination and a collaboration amongst the 36 senators that are seated around this circle to say, we want to make our parents and our children aware of what's happening on these campuses. We want the colleges and the institutions to report those incidences, so it's full transparency, so anybody can make the decisions on whether to send their child or defer them to go to a different school, maybe based on that, or maybe not. But information, as we all know in this building, is power. And what better power can you have as a parent than to have the full story behind it? So with that, Madam President, I want to thank the members and urge passage of the now amended bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Whitcoast. Will you remark further? Senator Haskell, to be followed by Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I am so grateful to be standing here today, and first and foremost, I want to thank my friend Senator Derek Slapp, Senator Kevin Whitcoast. It just means so much to me, and I know to the family, the Houseman family, that we've come together to pass this very important bill. And I was sort of nervous when I left the chairmanship of the Higher Ed Committee that perhaps this bill might fall through the cracks, but Senator Slapp made sure that it didn't happen. Senator Whitcoast made sure that it didn't happen. They kept working to make this bill better, to make it stronger, and to make it bipartisan, which we all, I think, could use today. I also want to thank Representative Josh Elliott and Representative Irene Haynes, the House Chair and Ranking Member of the Higher Ed Committee, for being so supportive of this legislation. It's true. It's not just something that we say. It is true that the very best ideas for legislation come from our constituents. And I can't tell you how moved I was one day when, in the midst of the pandemic, I got a call from a constituent named Nanette Houseman who shared the story of her son, Corey. This is a story that Senator Slapp mentioned just a moment ago. Corey passed away from a preventable accident in the first semester of his freshman year at college. In fact, if I recall correctly, it was the 15th day that he was at that college. It brought such a devastating loss to his family, and we heard from his family, we heard from his neighbors, we heard from his brother who had just helped to move him into that college campus. But there's just an incredible amount of credit that is owed to his mother, who has channeled her grief into advocacy and channeled her loss into activism. She gave a quote to the paper recently that really moved me. She said, when something happens that we can't control, some of us gravitate towards something that we can. We are, I think, forever grateful for the people like Nanette Houseman who do gravitate towards those things that we can control. And surely this is something we can control, right? Why in the world would we not want to know which campuses are seeing preventable deaths and accidents? And for that matter, Madam President, I want to take a moment to thank the colleges and the universities who have been supportive of this legislation throughout the process, because they recognize that this isn't just going to help the general public. It's not only going to help the parents, who I think Senator Whitko so eloquently spoke about, making an informed decision in partnership with their children who are going off to college, but it's also going to help the campuses themselves to become safer and to become smarter, to invest in making sure that these accidents don't happen in the future. I am enthusiastically voting yes today, and I'm so grateful for the Chamber for coming together. We shouldn't have to comb through media reports to find out which campuses are safe and which aren't. There should be a centralized system where we can figure out which campuses too often fall victims to accidental deaths and injuries. So I thank you for the time, Madam President, and thank you to my colleagues for prioritizing this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Will you remark further? Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll be very, very brief. I'm rising in support of the legislation before us today, and I want to begin by aligning my thoughts with the comments made by Senators Slapp, Witkos, and Haskell. I agree with them completely, and am very pleased to see this piece of legislation before us today, and am confident that it will make it the entire way, because it is a good bill, and it ought to become the law in our state. Listening to my colleagues, I wondered whether I should add the comments that I have at the moment, but I'm already sitting here, and I believe that what I've got to say doesn't take anything away from the bill that is before us, and I am very pleased to support it, and I hope it does in fact become law. But I would just like to make a few comments about what we can do even beyond this, that I hope become part of this policy in the future. And that is that this particular university crime report, or uniform campus crime report it's called, sticks only to items that actually occur in the purview of the campus itself. And this is a difficult question because every college campus is different. You have some that might be in an urban environment, a Yale, for example, that is located in a city, in fact, a major city that may have a higher crime rate than some other place where another university might be. And I don't want to end up doing damage to any particular school because some sort of statistics that are really a measure of the crime in the city reflect on that university. However, I would say, Madam President, that if the purpose of legislation like this is to truly let parents and potential students know about the dangers of any particular campus and their record, I think it is very, very important that that information about what happens that is student-related is made part of reports like this going forward. This focuses on the actual location controlled by the school. I think that the best solution would be something that is focused simply on the student body, whether that happens on school grounds or not, if you are looking for information that really reflects the risk potentially associated with sending a student to any particular university. Again, this is good legislation, but I believe it is the beginning of something we can even improve on in the future. And I hope these fine gentlemen will speak with me next session maybe, and we can talk about ways to even go beyond what we've done here before. And I'm delighted that this bill is here in memory of someone who was lost tragically, and his family can at least have some solace to know that they may prevent another tragedy in the future. And thank you for the opportunity, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson. Will you remark further on the legislation before us? Senator Slapp.
Thank you, Madam President. I do want to make sure that I thank Senator Tony Wong, who was also really a key part of this bipartisan effort to craft the best possible legislation. If there are no objections, I would suggest and move that this item be placed on the consent calendar.
Seeing no objections, it will be placed on the consent calendar. Mr. Clerk, the machine has been opened on Senate Bill 954. Please call for a vote.
Immediate roll call vote has been ordered in the Senate. Senate Bill 954 has been removed from the consent calendar. Immediate roll call vote in the Senate on Senate Bill 954 as amended. Immediate roll call vote has been ordered in the Senate on Senate Bill 954 as amended. Immediate roll call vote in the Senate.
Have all the senators voted? Have all the senators voted? The machine will be locked. And Mr. Clerk, would you please announce the tally?
Senate Bill 954, total number voting 35, total number voting yea 35, total voting nay 0, absent not voting 1.
And the legislation is adopted.